All right, so we're talking about getting back to the basics, okay? So I kind of want to start the conversation off with a conversation I had with a sales manager just yesterday, and it kind of like it really opened my mind. You know, so Jason McKellen is joining us today. Say hi to Jason.
Hey guys.
So Jason's been eager to get on one of these things, so here we are. So anyways, say hi to Jason there, Damien.
What's up, Jason? How are you? Nice to meet you.
Good, yeah, same with you.
All right, let's rock and roll. So anyways, we talk about this mortgage, and I know I'm outside the car business a little bit, but we talk about mortgages and how the interest rates are really high and people aren't buying homes. But my son made a very interesting point. Dad, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, it's drawing housing prices down. You're going to pay a higher interest rate, but the price you're going to pay for the house is a lot less. And you just refinance when mortgage rates get to where they, a reasonable level. I said, well, that makes a lot of sense, but people don't think that way. It's the same thing with a car deal. You were paying $5,000 over on this car, $2,000 over on this car in the height of the pandemic, and when inventories were really low. They're still low. They're coming back to some normalcy in some manufacturers, but you're going to pay a high interest rate, but you're going to pay less for the car. You're paying less for the car. You're not being charged an addendum. You're not being overcharged. So when people come in, they're concerned with interest rates. I think that's the way you should talk to them. And there is a refinancing in the car dealerships as well. You can't go back to the dealership and refinance, but certainly you can refinance through a credit union and stuff. But you can actually set the stage to have the dealership make a little bit more profit. So I wanted to kind of share that thought with you. I've been going around my clients, and one of the biggest things I hear, and you see it all over every automotive journal, the journals that represent our industry of recent months have been talking about going back to the basics, going back to the basics. And Damien and I and John and the team over at Product Prep, we thought that it would be appropriate to talk about getting back to the basics, because quite frankly, sales managers, sales scouts, you take this any way you want. You haven't been selling cars for the last 3 years, man. You've been nothing but order takers. If you have the car, I'll take it. And we lose sight, as it turns out, of what the fundamentals of our business are. I mean, follow up. I don't see guys on the phone all the time. There's not a lot of follow up going on. I mean, you followed up, but customers had already placed an order in your dealership. We haven't followed up and gone out prospecting and stuff like that. We got to get back to that stuff. We got to get back to the road to the sale, the base of the road to the sale. We've talked a number of times, a number of webinars over the past several months. In fact, the last couple of years, we talked about the importance of redirecting the customer's thoughts, redirecting the way we research or the way we handle the customer assessments, whatever you want to call them. The questions we ask a customer have to be different today than they were 2 or 3 years ago. What brought you into the dealership? A sales consultant actually asked me that the other day. What brought you into the dealership? I told him my Hyundai Sonata. That's what brought me in here. We still have sales managers at the sales tower going, what do you got? We've got to update our software. The appropriate questions are you here for sales or service? I'm here for sales. Great. Have you spoken to anybody here at the dealership yet? No, I haven't. Awesome. That gives me an opportunity to share some information with you. Before I begin, let me ask you a question. What research have you done? What prompted you to visit our dealership? What excited you about this particular vehicle you're interested in? Those are the type of questions we need to ask, because what those questions do is they create a better dialogue, a dialogue that leads to more sales. It also shows that you're concerned about the customer. So I wanted to kind of start off by that and kind of refer back to some of the things we talked about in the past about how we need to redirect our needs assessment with the customer. Find their value drivers, but more importantly, why are they standing in front of us? Why are they contacting our dealership? What inspired them to do so? And why are they so interested in this particular model? And you just ask them and they'll give you the answers. So I kind of wanted to bring that up, and I want to open it up. And if no one wants to speak, then I'll probably open up a PowerPoint and just start going through some finer points of what I'm talking about. So anybody want to ask any questions? And this or that Thursday. So stop saying that, what brought you in here, and start saying this. What research have you done? What inspired you to come by our dealership? What inspired you to contact us? Start the conversation off like that. Well, I saw this advertising for this automobile. Well, my buddy just bought a car for me. He said you're a great dealership to do business. Well, you happen to have the only Sonata in stock, or whatever it is. John, you got something to say? Anybody?
Yeah, I think
Hey, Rich
idea
Willis, what's up,
behind,
baby? Uh-oh. We're a little slow.
I didn't want to interrupt your what's up,
Go
Gerry.
ahead, John.
I was saying that, you know, the
Oh.
method of how we've been interacting with customers over the last, let's call it 18 to 24 months is completely different, I think, at this time than it has been maybe even previous to COVID and the shortage supply chain issues. And I think we see it from an outside perspective every time we visit a dealership. The sales management interaction, the flybys have gone away. The consultant really not going over the vehicle or doing a telling presentation on why the customer's there to buy that particular vehicle, or even asking the right questions. The thought process was they're there because they know you have a car that they have in mind, and you might be the only dealership that has it. That's starting to change a bit. I think that if we don't change and come out of the kind of ether that we've been put in by someone walking in and paying you $10,000 over sticker because you happen to have a car, you know, it's a difficult time, but the transition needs to happen now, because I assure you, in the next 3 to 4 months, the business is starting to get back to some normalcy in respect that there's cars on the ground. Maybe not so much that there's deals or good interest rates, but there's competitive offers because dealers now have inventory. So it's important that everyone gets onto the right page and kind of shifts the way they've been doing business to the way that they did business, you know?
One of the questions I learned a long, long time ago that my dad had asked me to ask myself every time that I go into the dealership, why should someone buy a car from me when they go down the street and buy the same car from someone else for the same or lesser price? And I told him why. And he looked at me and said, you don't tell people why. It's in your actions from the very beginning. How you set the tone, what you say, the questions you ask, and you show, not tell the customer why they should do business with you. And I think it all starts with being different than the typical sales consultant. And that's what I wanted to talk about, getting back to the basics. Can I help you? Come on, man. We got to stop asking, can I help you? And we got to start saying, I'm here to help you, basically. You know, you've got to make the conversation, you've got to control the conversation, but more importantly, from the get-go, you have to get the customer talking, and you do less talking. And you do that by asking questions. We talk about that all the time. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're probably wondering, why should you buy a car from us or buy a car from me when you can probably go down the street and get the same car for the same price? Well, let me share with you reasons why. I'm in the process right now of putting together a folder, a deal jacket. We talk about desking deals. There's a value proposition. Rather than just throw numbers at a customer, I think once you land a customer on a car, I think you need to share the information, you need to share the reasons why prior to giving the price as to why they should consider doing business with you. Every dealership has benefits. And the problem is that a lot of sales consultants aren't telling the customer the benefits of doing business here. It could be as small as a shuttle to the mall, or a shuttle back home, or a free loaner, or maybe you give a giveaway, or the theft program that you give away, or the lifetime service warranty that you give away. I don't know, but the thing is, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, before I present the numbers to you, I want to give you 1 or 2 reasons why you should consider doing business with me. We've been in business for the last 135 years. We've been in business for the last 15 years. Our dealership is big in the community. We support the local YMCA and the softball teams and the football teams, and we donate every year $15,000 to the fire department. We're a community-based, family-oriented business, and that's the type of business you want to do business with, right? Yep. Well, let me review the figures with you, okay? Boom. And then go back through the figures. I think it's important that you set yourself, or you differentiate yourself from the others. We call this session This or That Thursday. You need to take a look at the dialogue that you're using with your customers and update your software and start using better terms, from F&I to sales management to sales consultants. When you start asking a customer, what other vehicles are you looking at? We've talked about this a number of times. As immaterial as this may sound, this makes a huge impact in the customer's head. Rather than say, what vehicles are you looking at? Start asking them, what vehicles are you considering? Because when you ask them, what vehicles are you considering, you're actually narrowing down the choices that they've made along the road to the sale. Every customer goes through a journey, and it all starts with that first step, an awareness that they want a new car. Then they go into the stage of discovery, and they're looking at all types of different vehicles. Maybe they have one vehicle in mind that they want. You got to find out what it is. And then they get closer and closer to decision. And the decisions are made based on your interaction with them, based on what you present to them and how you bring your sales manager team into the equation. This is all how sales are made today. People expect more because for the past 3 years, they've been paying more. So you've got to give them more. You've got to look at the process you're doing now. You've got to look at the word tracks, the verbs that you're using, and change it up. Another example is when you're in the finance office and you're telling customers this will pay for repairs. Repairs is a bad word. Repair, the car's already in the shop. It will repair breakdowns. Breakdowns, the car's on the side of the road. What you're doing is you're creating these mental pictures by just changing some of the words up. I have a very strong desk manager sitting next to me, Jason. I'd certainly, I'll probably put him on the spot by saying, you have any comments about what I just talked about, Jason?
I agree completely. Little words make such a difference. We talk about it all the time. You can say so many different things with the same thing with different words, and just people do come up with a different picture of what you're talking about.
And that's so true when you're desking a deal and what you're trying to relay to your sales consultant. You know, I had a discussion with Jason the other day. How many times, for sales managers on this webinar, how many times has a sales consultant come up to you and said, my customer wants 72 months. My customer wants the lowest payment. And then you hit them right between the eyes with a 60-month payment. The sales consultant gets all jittery and says, no, that payment's too high. Show me a 72-month payment. I'm afraid to go back there. And you give them what they want. Well, you can give the sales consultant what they want. This is what I was telling Jason. Give them what they want. Give them the 72-month payment, but also give them a choice, a 60 and a 66-month payment. And maybe sometimes, it's funny, you know, the Goya, get off your ass. Maybe sometimes you got to get off your ass and go out there and talk to the customer. Because quite frankly, the sales consultant doesn't have the cannolis to do it, but you do, all right? They build a relationship with their customer, and through that relationship, they get very skeptical about going beyond the scope of what they really can do. And what I mean by that is they're afraid to push the customer over the fence. The sales manager at the sales tower, they don't have that same relationship. It's like me when I go in and coach and train. I'm not there every day, so I got to go in, get it done, and get out. And sometimes you're very bold, but you know, I don't take a soft approach. I take a very hard approach because I want to get my point across. So it's really important that, you know, in these times, and getting back to the basics, that you show your sales consultant how it's done by going out there and explaining to them, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I understand that you want a lower payment. The sales consultant recommended, you know, I give you a 72-month payment. There it is right there. But that may not be the best option for you. Here's a 60 and a 66-month payment. Why don't you take a moment to think about it? Let me know what your decision is. Once you decide to buy the car, I'll introduce you to my financial services manager. We'll get this thing all wrapped up. When you start talking like that, you're going to close more sales. It's just that simple. Confidence. You know, I know you're going to buy the car. It's a funny thing. Do you want the car? We talk about that. I think you need to ask customers, do you want the car? You know, nothing matters until you want the car. I've sat with many customers many times, and the customer says, what's the price of the car? And I said, before I go get the price, I want to know if you want the car. And they said, it all depends on the price. And of course it depends on the price. I just want to know if you want the car. Because if you want the car, then we've done our job. We. Stop saying I and start saying we. We're in this together. We've done our job. We found a car that fits. All we got to do is get you comfortable with the price, correct? Yep, that's great. Let me go back and get some figures for you. And then you set the tone for the figures. You tell the customer how much they need to put down. You give them choices. You give them monthly payments. You give them interest rates. You give them lease payments. You give them, you find out how many miles a year they're going to drive, and you throw it at them and say, these are the figures. What do you think? I think they're too high. How high? Well, I think they're about $1,000 high. And start laughing at them because that's ridiculous. I'm just kidding. That's how you work a deal. So open it up for questions. That's the first slide. Why would I buy a car from you when I can buy it for someone else for less money? The answer is blowing in the wind, my friend. You know Bob Dylan? The answer is blowing in the wind. So I used to say this the last year. We talked about this. Why should someone order a car from me when they can order it down the street for the same or lesser price? We're not ordering as many cars as we used to. So we got to get back to the basics. Talking about change, if you want to win over your prospect, you have to have a competitive advantage. And you can't just talk about change, and you got to change. You have to right now double down on your product knowledge because the prospects already have. You want to make the prospect go to action, you got to train on the basics. All sales managers train at the sales tower. Very few sales managers will take a sales team up into a conference room and train them. All they'll talk about is the incentives, and all they'll talk about is what's going on. Look, start with the meet and greet, move into the needs assessment, move into the walk around, move into the presentation of numbers, train you guys how to do it all over again. Rethink the goal of the sales call. It's more than just setting an appointment. It's closing the deal. A lot of deals are being consummated over the phone. Proactively engage with the customers. That Goya we often talk about. We need to start getting off our ass. We need to start showing customers that we care, all right, and that we want their business. The days of just saying, oh, taking advantage of the fact that we have the vehicle and they're willing to pay for it, those days are slowly going away. I don't hear, I tell you, I think I told the story the last webinar we had. I was sitting having a pizza with my wife in Newport Richey, Florida. And there were these two older gentlemen in a booth in front of us, and they were talking about an experience they just had. They were out for lunch. They left the dealership. They were looking to buy a Honda Accord at a local dealership. I didn't know what, the situation, but they were very unhappy about how everything went down. I kept saying, all I kept hearing was they weren't giving me enough of my trade. They weren't giving me enough of my trade. And I don't know if everybody knows, but my wife retired and she works at a dealer group in a BDC center. And I get a lot of information from her, by the way. She sets appointments and she talks about all the bad cars and key replacement and all this stuff. So I get a lot of stuff from her. So they mentioned the dealer group she happens to work for, and that kind of piqued my interest. So when I finished dinner, I walked over, to the booth, and I introduced myself and told them what I do, and told them my wife works for this certain dealership group, and tell me what happened. And they said, well, I know that they're going to get list price for the vehicle or more. I know that's going to happen. This is just a few months ago, by the way. And it really hit me when a consumer says to me that I know they're going to get full price. Why don't they give me what my car's worth? What's your car worth? He says $22,000. I said, where'd you get that information? He says, I got it from 3 websites. What did they offer you for your trade? $19,000. I said, and he said, if they gave me all the money I wanted for my car, which was fair, I thought, because I had 3 websites that said my car was worth $22,000 average. I'm willing to pay all the money for their car. Why couldn't we make a car deal? I'm really upset. What are you trading in? All right, so for your Volkswagen folks on the line, please don't get mad at me. They said a 4-wheel drive Volkswagen Atlas in Florida. And I said, that's probably why I didn't get the money you wanted for your car, because it's not that desirable. That's it. Now, had they explained that, because the guy brought it down from New York, had they explained that to the customer may have had a better feeling. They might not have still gotten the sale, because he probably would have figured, well, I'll go up to New York and trade the vehicle in if it's worth more in New York. But the point I'm trying to make is we need to be sentimental. We need to have a little bit of empathy. Customers understand that we're making all the money. Customers understand, for the most part, the majority of customers realize that we're going to ask all the money for our vehicles. Therefore, they expect more. And let me tell you something. For those dealerships and sales managers out there that go right to the discount, stop. Because what you're doing is you're going back to old school tactics. We just went through a transition in our industry. And John, I'd love to hear your comments on this. Emilio, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. We need to hold firm because we've trained consumers to think differently when they walk into a dealership. We just need to get back to the basics of selling and hold our gross on these. Love to hear you guys' opinion. Emilio, start with you.
I think you're spot on. I think the more you build the value in the vehicle, in the dealership, especially the service that the dealership can provide, and on top of that, a service walk, and understand that the customer has the feeling that we can source all of their needs and build value in what you provide, rather than just selling them a car, really is going to be that competitive advantage, I think. John, your take?
Yeah, so we've had a little different exercise. I agree with you 1,000% on the sales side of things, but I've also realized that from a desking perspective and from finance interaction with consumers, the interest rates are higher. So the path of least resistance, if you don't get up and get involved with the deal, is let's pencil them at buy rate, or let's give them an exact payment and try to work from there. Where if you get the professional finance manager involved and let him handle the rate or the term or the payment concern or constraint, I feel like your deal at that point can be molded into where you want it to go, as opposed to just appeasing a customer that's not used to paying an interest rate that's twice as expensive as what he has on his current loan. And I find that unless you get involved early on in the deal, you can lose it very quickly. But we've become complacent. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but when I watch interactions with customers, there's very little interaction from a management standpoint. To me, that's the most important interaction you can have. Certainly with somebody that's concerned about interest rate, payment, anything like that, get involved early in the deal. They'll feel more comfortable that there's somebody that's there to kind of work the deal in the way that they want it to be worked, and they feel like they're being taken care of, as opposed to maybe a newer or somebody that's new to the business trying to control those objections at the sales desk with the sales manager, then going back and reporting to the customer. It's not as effective. And I feel like that's something that can change day one with a little bit more effort, and certainly turns into better profit, better customer experience. Because when those questions are asked and there's a vague response, you lose credibility with that customer. So those are the things that I see that can be an immediate change in the culture, not only of the sales desk and finance team, but sales feeling like there's reinforcement behind them.
I completely agree.
Great point, John. We work deals. Go ahead, Emilio.
I was going to say, I wanted to add, especially with the rate change, a lot of consumers aren't aware of it yet. So they want to immediately go to their own bank, their own credit unions, being unaware that we could match or get almost as aggressive. And if we don't interject and get involved in that sale up front, we lose a lot of those opportunities. So it was a great point, John. I just wanted to back that up.
Yeah, that is a really good point, because when a manager is someone of authority, and I'm not saying sales consultants don't have authority, and that's not my point, but a manager steps off the podium and walks over to a customer and explains, you realize that rates are at a high right now. We're in an economy that it's fluctuating. It can't be predicted. I mean, now's the best time because rates are going to continue to go up until something happens. And then, I'm not saying refinance, but there's always the opportunity to refinance. And remember, there was an inventory shortage, and during that inventory shortage, you were going to pay a high premium for this vehicle, which it's going to compensate, or it's going to take it. It's going to basically break the interest rate versus the amount you paid barrier. I'm trying to figure out the right word. It can't come up to my head, but we talk about interest rates and we talk about presenting payments. I'm a strong believer in presenting a pencil, the initial quote, to the customer based on the customer's criteria, whether it be based on their credit or based on average credit. And I was sitting in a dealer group not too long ago, and it really opened my eyes to the questions we asked our customers prior to penciling a deal or giving the customer figures. And we would ask the customer, how do they feel their credit is? Or how would they rate their credit? Or on a scale from 1 to 5 and 1 to 10, as you credit good, fair, or poor, or excellent, And this one sales consultant said to me, I started asking them.
Thank you for calling the all-new Toyota City. We're conveniently located. Toyota City is now family-owned and operated.
I was told in my sales process to ask the customer what the credit was like. And it kind of like every time I'd ask the customer that, they kind of like cringe. So I came up with something different. I realized that every couple months or every, you know, at least once a month, my credit card company's telling me that my FICO score is available. So I go and I look at it and I know my credit score is. I think every consumer that has a credit card or has a checking account gets that opportunity. So rather than ask, you know, how do you, what's your credit like? Start asking them. If you're like most customers, you probably know what your credit score is because the bank has asked, you know, gives you the opportunity to do that. Yeah, I do. What is it? So that I can narrow in on the payments. How do you want to do this? You want to do this based on your credit or average credit? I want to do it on average credit. Right now, average credit is 9%. What you've just done is you set the stage for success. You didn't say, well, I don't know, because you weren't afraid to admit that the rates are high. My whole point in this is confidence sells. And the more you don't blurt something out or you don't waver when you say something, you just point blank. We base our initial quotes on average credit. The current average rate is 7% on new cars and 12% on used cars. Man, that's awful high. I think my credit union can do 5 or 6%. On my credit union can do 4.5%. I can base the figures on 4.5% if you want, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. And then I'll have you speak to our finance manager and see what they have available for you. How's that sound? Yeah, let's do that. In other words, you got to make it easy for them to say, yes, I want the car. Yes, I'll take the car. And then once they commit to taking the car, everything becomes easy. But if you have a tug of war before they even say, I'll take it, you're going to lose the sale. All I need to know is if you want the car, because if you want the car, you're going to own it. If you don't want the car, we're just wasting our breath. Any other comments?
Jerry, to go off of what John was saying earlier, how soon or how late are you looking to do that flyby with the finance manager? Is the salesperson getting tongue twisted with the interest rate conversation? Is that when you're bringing in the finance guy to entertain that?
I think the sales consultant does get tongue twisted when they start wavering, when they start saying the old school, well, rates change every day. You know, I don't know what the rate's going to be. I mean, if you can get 4.9 in your credit union, maybe my finance manager can do better. That's setting the stage for non-success. That's setting the stage for disaster. You just got to go in and say, these are the facts, man. You've heard the news. You've done your research. You know what the rates are. I'm not that far off. You know what the prices of cars are. You know, you're almost like saying to the cousin, why are you giving me a hard time, without saying to him, why are you giving me a hard time? That's the difference. And what does training do? Training builds confidence. That's why it's so important. We talk about getting back to the basic. Get back to the basics by just training your sales staff. Just go out there and just tell them, this is what you need to do. You're not going to lose the customer. And look, make sure you talk to me before the customer leaves. And the sales manager walks up, you know, the sales consultant says to the customer, Mr. Jones, before you leave, my sales manager wants to say hi. You basically told the customer that my sales consultant manager wants to say bye. You know, before you leave, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, let me make sure I got everything squared away. I just want to go and review it with my sales manager one more time, make sure I got everything straight. I didn't miss anything. Then get that sales manager, get off his ass and go talk to that customer. Get the finance manager, go out there and talk to that customer. You know, rates are risk. Rates are a risk factor. Let's go over your credit report. Let's go over the risk-based pricing notice. Let's find out if you truly want this car. What other vehicles are you considering? Why are you considering this car? You know, we're $20 away, $40 away, $100 away in a monthly payment. $100 away in a monthly payment. $100 away is separating you from buying this car and buying the car that you don't want. Now, I want you to think about something, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. You take that $100 and you divide that by 30. What's that come out to? $3. $3 is a day, and you're living in New York City, you're living in New Jersey, you're living in Pennsylvania, and you're going through that toll booth every day, spending $12, $15, $16, never looking at your credit card, and you're going to tell me $3 is going to change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or manner? That bottle of scotch you buy every night, that lottery ticket you buy every night, that cigar that you smoke every single day, the lunch that you buy, $3 a day in this economy is not going to change your lifestyle, especially when you're looking at a $60,000 vehicle. So $100 that's separating you from this car It's $3. And think about that. That $3 you could have spent every day, you're going to be in the wrong car, and you're going to wonder why you didn't buy that other car. That's the type of conversations that need to take place with your customers today. Because everybody has, what do they call it? When you have money in your pocket, John, outside of the money that you have in the bank, disposable income. Everybody's got it. So I'll confess, I was at the casino last night. It was friggin' packed. Okay? And let me tell you something, those people aren't spending dollar bills. All right? So come on now. This is the reality. Back to the basics. Anybody else?
Hey, Gerry.
I tell people.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Let John speak.
Sure.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, Jason.
So I love to tell them the story. I did it to myself because I'm about as cheap as you can get. But I had a car one time just based on payment, what it was, and they took our demos, and I didn't want us to have a car. And for $50 a month, I looked out that door every day, saw the car in the driveway, and I hated that car. And I always tell them, look, you know, I didn't remember the $50 a month. I remember looking out that, seeing that car. I didn't want to get into anymore. And of course, I got out of it, and it cost me more in the end. So I always tell people that you'll forget about that $100 a month when you look out there and you love the car you're getting in.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. That brings up a point when I used to sell fabric and paint treatment. I had a finance man used to tell the customer, you know, look at that car out there, how beautiful it looks right now in the sun in Florida. If you don't get this fabric and paint treatment, in a year from now, you're gonna be looking out your kitchen window, looking at that piece of crap. So get the fabric and paint. All right, so we interrupted someone. Go, whoever was speaking.
Yeah, Gerry, it's Jason Manos. I'm on one of my guy Nick's computers because someone's got me blocked up and my computer tied up. We had a customer yesterday in Genesis that came over into the salesperson who runs Genesis for us, and the guy tells him, he goes, "This is my friend. I want them to buy the car from you because everything you told me and said, I didn't listen to you." And said that, you know, and I went out and I bought the car that I didn't want because it's a few dollars cheaper and stuff like that. And I never heard from those people again. And he goes, and you followed up on me and you did stuff. So he goes, all the stuff you said you were going to do, he goes, I want my friend to buy the car from you because they were following up. So what you're saying about that stuff, you can get the car anyplace else. You can't get me anyplace else. And the biggest thing we never do with people is we never ask them what's the most important thing to them in a car. They'll tell you. It's real simple.
You have to ask. You're absolutely right. You have to ask. You get more out of asking questions. How many times you heard me talk about verbal vomit in the finance office? Stop with the verbal vomit. Stop telling people why they should buy a service contract. Let them find it out on their own. They're going to tell you, how important is a needs assessment today? What inspired you? What attracted you to this vehicle? What inspired you to buy this vehicle? What attracted you to our dealership? If your sales consultant that asked, every one of your sales out, Jason, that asked those questions, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what the customer's going to say. But if you never ask those questions, that's never going to come out. You don't know the motive this customer has as to why they're standing in front of you or why they're calling your dealership. You don't know the motives behind why they want this specific automobile until you ask. And that's the key to success in sales. You know, determine the customer's need through asking the right questions. You don't have to, you know, here's a laundry list of questions. What would you like to accomplish today? What other vehicles are you considering? What's the reason for wanting a new vehicle? What research have you done so far? What's important to you in your next vehicle? What do you like most about the vehicle you're driving now, or least about the vehicle that you're driving now? How often do you change cars? Do you have pets driving along? Do you have children that are going to be in there? Is safety a concern of yours? Have your needs changed in the past couple of years? Do you see your needs changing in a couple of years from now? You start asking those questions, and the customer, wow, this guy really cares. And that's the difference. Why should I buy a car from you when I can go down the street and buy it for someone else? Because you just proved to me that you're the person I want to do business with. I'm very comfortable with you. You're asking me the right questions. And now when you go to present the numbers, you have velocity. You have momentum. You have positivity. You have sales. You have
Gerry,
growth.
to Jason's point, you know, it's a very basic point that he made, but it's a point that we overlook quite a bit in the business. But to your point about the questions that are asked, you've got to earn the right to ask those questions. And all too often I see people rapid firing questions for their own needs, not for the customer's needs. So if you don't know what's important to the customer, because the first thing they're going to say is price is most important. If you haven't earned the right to find out what is truly important to the customer, price is a guard. Price is something that they put up and they say to you because they don't want to give you the information because they feel like they may get taken advantage of if you haven't earned that trust yet. So just as important of asking the right questions is earning the trust to get the actual answers that you're looking for, you know?
John, you're so right. This is all reality. We talk about this all the time, yet we don't perform this way. And we need to start performing this way. This is the way, and this all comes through training. It's really, really important that we train. You know, I go into these sessions, I'll have 10, 15, 20 people in a group, and I'll look out at them and say, when was the last time that you picked up an industry journal? When was the last time that you read about selling or read about our business? And no one raises their hand. But if you ask them, do you like hunting? Do you like fishing? Do you like golfing? How many times you read a golf book? How many times you read a fishing book? How many times you read a hunting book? The answer, oh yeah, I love them. I got them all, man. I'm like, but this is your livelihood. Without this, you wouldn't be able to go hunting. You wouldn't be able to go golfing. You wouldn't be able to go fishing, you know? So my recommendation is get the books out. Hey, look, I've been doing this a long, long time, right? Everybody knows that. And I feel like I'm a pretty good coach, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning. It's all about knowledge is power. And that's why I go into my situations with as much confidence I have, because I'm constantly learning. And if I can't get it right, I'll find a way to get it right the next time.
You know, a little bit to what John was saying, something we've talked about before. You know, when the owner of your dealership group says, I got somebody come in, it's a neighbor, it's a family member, it's somebody, how you probably do everything just a little bit different with that person. Try and be in the mentality with every single customer that comes in that's sent in by your owner, and you just walk the steps and you treat them different and you take the time.
You know, to your point, I think you see management involvement very quickly, you know, very early on in that interaction as well, because that makes that person feel like we care about each and every customer. You're not just somebody that came in and you're going to deal with my salesperson. He's going to report back what he found to me, and I'm going to give you a wave on the door out, you know? So that's a very, very good point, very valid point. If you treat each person like they're a VIP in your dealership, you'd be amazed. The gross goes up, the customer experience goes up, and before you know it, they're sending friends, to Jason's point, that want to deal just with you because you made that experience special.
Absolutely. While at AutoNation, it was embedded in my brain when I walked into a dealership that we treat every day as the last day of the month. Every day is the last day of the month. Every day is the last day of the month. So when the last day of the month came, it was just another day.
True.
That, you know, sometimes it all comes down to mindset, and you develop a mindset, quite frankly, and you become unconsciously, that's your aptitude. That's the norm, you know? So when you get into training mode and you get into changing the verbiage and updating your software and changing words, these little words, you form habits, better habits. And as you go along, it gets better and better and better. And what you've done is you create a culture in your dealership. You know, I see Rich on the phone. I know Jason's on the phone. I've been to their dealership, and Mike is creating a culture in that dealership. From the logo they use on the side of their arm, he's creating a culture in that store with every one of his employees. And that's the one thing he's driving home. And that's why they're on these webinars all the time, because he's saying, you know, I want you to pick this up, pick that up. And they're picking it. He's driving a culture, and the culture that works, you know, and that's what you need to do. You can't say that's the way it's done here. We can't change. You got to knock the T off of the can, and you got to make those changes. And it all starts at the sales tower. F&I getting involved and training the sales, because, you know, I strongly recommend that you put a training schedule together. You get your guys up in a room for 15 minutes. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter how they feel about it, because all the information you're going to give them is only going to make them more money. So don't say I don't have any time, because time is money. And the less time you spend training, the more money you're going to lose. Rich, you got anything you want to say? I just gave you a great compliment.
No, I think everything's great, man. I appreciate the compliment. That's why I got all the guys on, me and Jay.
All right. Things going on.
Like you tell people all the time, man, you can't drive a blue price, you can't drive a low payment, you can only drive the car. So payment is something, but it's not everything. I had a friend of mine that used to buy Avalon trimming. And then one day his wife was talking to him, yelling at him that he's spending too much money on these stupid cars. So, I mean, this is going back in the day. He ended up buying a Mitsubishi. And he literally, as he was driving out of the parking lot, he turns to his wife, he goes, I can't use the words he used, but he basically said that we made a mistake.
That is a mistake.
All things can be
My antenna.
all things can be justified by price, right? And again, if you're going to pay for something, why not pay for something you like, something you want, something you need, right? But the difference between paying for something you don't want and something you do want is a very different perception and perception of reality.
Of course you don't.
One thing that we're not doing and not using enough of is the world that's going on right now. Like I said, how much are eggs? How much is, bread? How much is bacon? How much is everything? It's through the roof. So people know automatically that they're going to spend more money when they go to the supermarket, when you go buy a piece of furniture, when you buy everything. So why is us in the car business turn around and go, oh my God, we got to give the thing away? No, build value. Learn how to sell. Be a salesman. There was an old movie, Ruthless People, that Danny DeVito's in there talking to this person, and he goes, a bad salesman always lowers his price.
You're absolutely right. We talk about that in finance too. Stop discounting, going right to a discount. Start to build value. Again, everything we're talking about, I don't know how many sales consultants are on this line, but everything that we're talking about, you need to take some of these things and put your sales staff in a room and say, this is where we need to go. And when they realize your attitude towards things, how you view things, they're going to view things the same way, as long as you can send that consistent message to them. And that way, they're going to go out there and they're going to talk to the customers in the manner that you want them to talk to. Control, baby. It's all about control, managing the deal from the get-go. Ladies and gentlemen, I love these discussions, and I really like when people get involved in these discussions, because I write stuff down. I learn even more. I mean, what you said, you don't drive the payment, you don't drive the interest rate, you drive the car. I thought was really, really good. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, come on, man. It's not the payment you drive, and it's not the interest you drive, and it's that car you're going to be driving. I know you're not going to enjoy paying the rate. I know you're not going to enjoy paying the payment, but you're certainly going to enjoy driving that car, aren't you? So just say yes. Boom. That was beautiful. Love it.
I like it.
I do too. I wrote it down. What else is going on? Go ahead. Stage is yours.
Hey, Jerry, you want to do that Ben Franklin close for everyone? I thought it was really good.
Okay. Everybody knows Ben Franklin, right?
He was the first millionaire in U.S. history.
First millionaire. He invented electricity. So Ben Franklin, whenever he had to make a decision, he would put a T on a piece of paper, and he'd write positive and negative. And he would list all the positive things that would make up that decision, all the negative things that would make up that decision. And then he would weigh the positive against the negatives, and that was how he made some of these critical decisions. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're trying to decide whether or not you want to buy this car. Let's do what Ben Franklin did. After all, he was the first millionaire. He did invent electricity. He's very popular, right? Okay. He's so popular, they put him on a $100 bill, which I won't want. That's in your pocket, by the way. So you write a T and you say positive, negative. And you say, okay, so this has all the features you want. That's a positive, right? This is the color you want. That's a positive. This has the interior, leather interior you want. Positive. The only thing is the price is $100 too high, right? Or the interest rate is too high, right? But everything else is a positive. Oh, in fact, this car, okay, has those wheels that you love. Remember how much you said, I love the wheels on that car. It makes the car look so nice. So it has those wheels, all right? What else does the car have that you like? It has those safety features for your grandchildren. Yeah. So what's preventing you from moving forward? Just the price and the interest rate? You don't drive the interest rate. You don't drive the price. You drive the car. You might not enjoy paying the price or the interest rate, but you're certainly going to enjoy driving that car, wouldn't you? Yeah. So doesn't it make sense to just say, yes, let's take it home? After all, don't you deserve it? I know Ben Franklin would say yes.
Great
How was
quote.
that, Damien?
I love it, man. That's you really can't incorporate anything into your close, Jerry. It was pretty good. You know, I just learned that Ben Franklin close, and I thought it was pretty cool. You adapted it to sales. I heard it for finance, but it's the same principle. Great job.
Well, yeah, you could do it for finance too, a service contract. I learned it a long time ago. So the only thing that's preventing you from buying the service contract is you want to think about it, right? Okay. I can certainly appreciate you wanting to think about it. Obviously, taking the time to think about it means that you're somewhat interested in the program, right? Yep. You've heard of Ben Franklin, right? Yeah, I've heard of Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was the first millionaire. He invented electricity. He's on the $100 bill. That's the Ben Franklin we're talking about. You know, I read a book, and when Ben Franklin came to a decision like you're at right now, where something I got to think about, he used to weigh the positive against the negatives. So can we take a moment and do what Ben Franklin would do? Do you mind? No, not at all. All right, so I'm going to write a T, and I'm going to put positive and negative. So you're thinking about the service program, therefore you have interest. So that's a positive, interest in the service program. You know, if you wait and purchase it later, it's going to cost you more money. So more money, less money. In addition to that, something might happen in the interim of you not having the service contract, and you need it and you don't have it. So the negative is you need it. I mean, you need it, but have it. And the negative is you don't have it and need it, and so on and so forth. And you go down and you say, take a look at this. Now, what do you think Ben Franklin would do in this situation? I threw another one at you, didn't I, John? It's like, now, what do you think he'd do? After all, he didn't become a billionaire by being stupid.
True.
All right. So that's the Ben Franklin close when it comes to finance. We got a great team, man. We got a great audience today. This was awesome. I love doing this stuff. I want to continue on with the This or That Thursday. This is great stuff. I'd love to hear from you folks as to what you'd like us to talk about on This or That Thursday. We can put something together, whip something together that will be advantageous for everybody. So with that, I'm going to kind of close my mouth and open it up to everybody else on this webinar. So it's a free speech, right? Anybody at all?
Actually, Jerry, you read my mind when you said about asking for the sale. I was literally thinking about that. And how it's been the past 2 years of almost take it or leave it. Not that we wanted to have that mentality, but that's kind of the way it just was. You know, present the numbers. It was always present the numbers, shut up. You actually forget it's present the numbers. Would you like to buy the car?
Exactly.
And then when you come back and you have new numbers, you've overcome an objection of whether it's numbers, color, car, whatever it is, you ask again, would you like to buy the car? And until they say yes, or you find out what the real reason is.
If you don't ask, you're not going to get, especially today. Good point, Jason. Anybody else? And with that said, I want to thank everybody for participating, everybody for listening, and we'll be on the same back channel. So pick up that red phone when it rings. Next Thursday, This is That Thursday, brought to you by Product Prep. Boom.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Have a
Great
great
job, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.